No matter how driven you are, you likely struggle with procrastination. And I'm guessing as you've transitioned to working from home, the situation hasn't improved much. When it comes to putting off our work, let's just say it's a constant battle.
Come here, no!
Don't die.
Help me! Oh, no, Matt, no!
So close. As Stephen Pressfield writes in The War of Art, procrastination is the most common manifestation of resistance because it's the easiest to rationalize. We don't tell ourselves, I'm never going to write my symphony. Instead, we say, I'm going to write my symphony. I'm just going to start tomorrow. Now think about what you're going through when you promise yourself that you'll do something tomorrow. All of a sudden, in that moment, all that pressure, the anxiety, and the stress is alleviated. We feel almost productive in an odd way. We feel like we're actually making progress when we're not. We convince ourselves through all these excuses like, tomorrow I'm gonna have more energy, tomorrow I'll feel more inspired. But the problem there is that tomorrow never comes, because tomorrow we don't feel inspired, we don't have more energy, and so we continue to push it off until the pain becomes so great that we can't not do that thing. The deadline has arrived and we have to get to work, or else we'll face the consequences from our boss, the IRS, or a significant other.
Hey, did you get a chance to cancel those flights?
Oh, my laptop broke, actually.
Isn't that your computer?
What we need to do couldn't be simpler. Sit down and get to work. And yet in practice, it's not so easy. And so in my years of working for myself as a freelancer and as an independent content creator, mostly working from home, I've learned a whole lot about how to avoid procrastination. And I've realized that one big difference that I've made is including an almost daily practice, a daily ritual that takes about 15 minutes. This 15-minute ritual includes 5 things that not only help me to kickstart my day, but also to stay focused for much longer periods of time. But first, this video is brought to you by Skillshare, because you're only as good as the skills that you invest your time and energy into, and Skillshare is an amazing platform for learning. In fact, my friend and the author of the fantastic book Essentialism, Greg McKeown, just released a class called Simple Productivity: How to Accomplish More with Less.
One of the things that makes uncommitting hard for people is the sunk cost bias.
Get this class and tons of others on productivity, creativity, and more. For a limited time only, use the link in the description to get a 2-month free trial of a Skillshare Premium membership. And after that, it's really affordable. With an annual subscription, get it for less than $10 a month. My daily ritual to avoid procrastination begins with, you might have guessed, coffee. You've seen me make coffee in so many videos by now it's become cliche, but it's an important trigger that helps me get my day started. So the importance of this ritual became pretty obvious to me when I quit caffeine for 30 days. It wasn't the caffeine itself that I missed the most. My headaches largely went away in the first 5 or 6 days. But it was that daily ritual of making a cup of coffee. It was almost a Pavlovian response. When I had that cup and I sat down next to my laptop, I all of a sudden felt this surge of inspiration and motivation. It was the repetition, doing it every single day. Grabbing my coffee, getting to work. Grabbing my coffee, getting to work. By the way, if you're looking for good coffee, I get my beans delivered bi-weekly from a local California company called Cat and Cloud. If you remember, one of the owners of the company, Chris Baca, he's the guy that quit caffeine with me for that experiment.
Matt, thank you for ruining the past month of my life.
One thing that I've started to reintroduce into my daily routine is a handwritten to-do list. Before I ever started this YouTube channel, I was a freelance filmmaker, and during that time, I relied largely on handwritten to-do lists to organize all of my tasks and all of my projects. And for some reason, over the past couple years, I've lost touch with that. And I think maybe it was something about now working completely and living completely from home, never getting out of the house. I needed something tactical, something that I could literally physically write down to keep track of the most important things. And I find that as opposed to a digital system, I'm much more clear on the 1 to 3 things that are most important. So this is what the coming week has in store for me. Monday, edit procrastination video. That's the video that you're watching. Tuesday, write YouTube course. Wednesday, film social content and take new photos. Thursday, plan next week's video. Friday, film next week's video. So now when I sit down each morning for the rest of the week, I can identify the 1 to 3 things that are most important, not the 5 to 15 things that I need to do during the day. Because chances are, if those small things don't get addressed, don't get touched, then it's not the end of the world. But if I don't get those 1 to 3 things done, then it'll likely really stilt my progress going forward. I also really like to lay out my week to see what's happening and how much progress I can get by Friday. Because sometimes if we're just looking at today, it can be, I guess for somebody like myself who's a little bit impatient, it can get kind of frustrating. But when you can see that whole progress that you're able to achieve if you stay on task today, that motivates and inspires me because I don't want to continue to push things until the next week and the next week. Now, I still use the app To Do as a digital version of my to-do list, but lately it's mostly a place to collect things that I need to do but aren't a top priority, like shooting some B-roll for a friend's YouTube channel, calling my accountant to get an update on my taxes, or reminders for ideas I'd like to include in my course. The next thing that's essential for me to avoid procrastination is to find solitude, peace, quiet, and no other humans, which in a way is easier now that we're all locked in at home, and in another way, it's just as difficult. Some people seem to thrive in chaos. They don't get disturbed by a messy desk, harsh lighting, or a penguin dancing next to your workspace. That's not the case for me. Whether I'm in a room alone or ideally home alone, I find that the stillness motivates me into action, and it's far less likely that I'll stop once I get into the state of flow. Now, solitude is not always possible, especially at times like these when we're locked inside with our roommates, our spouse, or our kids. And so we have to get a little bit more creative to find that same kind of solitude. And one thing that really helps me is to put on a pair of noise-canceling headphones. By the way, if you're keeping track, this is thing number 4. Most days when I sit down to begin my work, I'll put on my noise-canceling headphones and play from one of 2 Spotify playlists, Deep Focus or Lo-Fi Beats. I can't listen to anything with vocals because it's nearly impossible for me to focus, but having some kind of instrumental track in the background acts to lock me into my work. I'm sure people that work in an office environment know how powerful it is to have over-ear headphones. It's the universal sign for get fucked. It is incredibly helpful for letting people know that you're locked into work and you do not want to be disturbed. I've heard of other people doing things like placing flags next to their desk when they are really locked in and trying to get some deep work done. I personally have conversations with Natalie. We talk about when we're wearing headphones, that's a do not disturb sign. The added benefit of the music, the noise cancellation, the over-ear headphones, is just one way that I'm able to find solitude when there maybe isn't solitude to be found anywhere. And the last thing that really helps me is to remove as many other distractions as I possibly can. There are some measures that I take before I even start working, like having the Freedom app installed that blocks websites that I designate. Lately, I've blocked popular news sites I go to as well as Reddit. Just that barrier, just that little bit of like, don't do it. It just prevents that instant flinch to want to check those sites, and it helps me to get back to work. It doesn't always work. There are lots of times where I'm like, I just want to hit. I just want to see what's going on with the news today. But then I find that even if it works 40 or 50% of the time, that's enough to avoid that procrastination and to get to work. And on my phone, I delete social apps like Instagram and TikTok. I usually only keep these apps on my phone a couple of days a week, but if they happen to be on my phone and I can sense the distraction coming in, I'll simply delete them. And those are the 5 things that help me avoid procrastination and stay focused on my work. The important thing about this ritual is that it takes me less than 15 minutes to complete, and once I've done it, I find that I'm much more locked in and much more productive. There's probably nothing magical about the combination of these activities besides maybe the caffeine, but it does help me to build some momentum towards the work that I need to do each day. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and thank you so much for tuning in and watching these videos every week. Hey guys, by the way, I cut my own hair. What do you think? Like, serious feedback in the comments. I think I did a pretty damn good job. The back is kind of fucked up. Like the back, I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if that's in focus, but I kind of fucked up the back a little bit. But I think it's pretty good, Nobody has to see the back of my head. Just from now on out, you're never gonna see the back of my head in a video. Okay, bye.